Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm taking you down memory lane as I just go back and tell you a little bit about my husband's and I's weekend at CrossCon conference. This past January, it was my first year, his third, and it was so good. I would highly recommend it to everybody. I've never been around 12,000 people at one shot worshiping God. I don't even think I've been around 1,000 people who have been worshiping God in one sitting. And just being in a room full of thousands of other young adults who are there because they want to be there, because they love Jesus and they want to become better equipped to sharing his word, to making disciples. And it was just the most incredible experience I've ever had. What is CrossCon exactly? So basically it's a conference that challenges young adults to make their life count by making Jesus known. And they have all sorts of different resources that you can dig into. They have a bookstore there with, I should just show you guys. One second. Okay, I'm back. So they have lots of books. They have booths of mission organizations where you can go and you can talk to some of the leaders there and just hear about the vision for their mission. You can hear about what they're doing, where they would need potential missionaries to be. But some of my favorite books that we got there are these four little guys right here. They're not very big. This one is Sharing the Gospel with a Mormon. This one is With a Catholic Friend. This one is With a Jehovah's Witness. And this one is With a Muslim Friend. And I haven't read any of them yet. I will start with the Catholic one because out here there's a ton of Catholics. And basically it's just equipping you to know what they believe, why they believe, and how you can more effectively share the gospel with them in a way that it's going to resonate. And I think that's going to be so handy because I know some very faithful Catholics where it's like talking to a brick wall, and I was initially just going to get that one book, and then my husband's like, well, we might as well get all of them. And I was like, no, that's true, we might as well. That way we'll be really well equipped, or whoever we might encounter in life. Yeah, and that is just four of the dozens of books that they had there. Anyways, it's basically, it's just equipping young adults to take the gospel and encouraging them to do so. And yeah, that's the basis of it. Making their life count by making Jesus known. Who is CrossCon for? It's for young adults, but they do have a fine print on their website if you go and look that they're not strict about that. Okay, sorry, I didn't even say the age, did I? I'm getting ahead of myself here. It's for ages 18 through 25. But as I was saying, if you go look at their website, they're going to specify that they are not strict on that age because they realize it's for anyone at any time and that they know the resources they provide can be useful for all. So you don't have to be within the age group to go. I saw elderly people there. I saw families there with young children. There was a healthy mix of everybody, and even just all nationalities. It was incredible, and like I said, it was very encouraging. So, what can you expect when you go to CrossCon? You can expect main talks. So they have this huge auditorium where they have, it's like sermons, it's like church, all right? Everybody meets. You have a couple of speakers who are going to give a lengthier sermon, but it's called a main talk. You're going to have worship, of course. There's going to be panel talks where they have different individuals come up. They sit around a little table on chairs, and they just talk about their testimony, their life, what they've been doing, what God's been doing, and they share all the wonderful things that God has been faithful in. And then did I say they give their testimonies? I can't remember if I said they give their testimonies, but they do that as well. And one of the testimonies we heard was of a Muslim converted Christian, and that you read of those stories of Muslims giving their life to Christ and how their family just shuns them and how they treat them so horrifically, and to hear somebody in real life have that happen to them just brought it closer to home. And there was so many other testimonies of people that missionize in third world countries, the things that they have seen, the things that they have experienced, the things that have been done to them, that have done to close relatives or friends. It was no longer just stories in a book. It was directly in front of your face, seeing the individual, and it was humbling. It was also very eye-opening because America is incredibly pampered, and the Christians in America are incredibly lazy. And I'm incredibly pampered and lazy. So, along with what else can you expect? Just getting back on track here. I already talked about the bookstore. Also, these books, for all 4 of these, it was only $10, and there was so many other books there that it was like $2 for a book, because they really mark things down to make it more affordable for people. That way that you can get the resources. Like, they're trying to put the resources in young adults' hands and stuff. I love the bookstore. I love books. It was kind of dangerous for me to be in there. It was kind of dangerous for my husband to be in there because we wanted to get all the books. And we agreed if we go home and we read all the books that we got, next year when we go, we can get even more books. But we have to start with the books we got. So along with main talks, there are also sessions called breakouts. And it's some of the main speakers that have them. It's other people that they have brought in that aren't necessarily that you will see up on the stage talking. And it's just little, like half-hour to 45-minute talks on certain topics. And how it kind of works is if you get in the website, in the scheduling option on the app, there's going to be a breakout 3 hours back to back to back, a different breakout each hour back to back to back. But in each one of those hours, there's like 4 breakout sessions going on, but of course you can only go to one, so you have to pick the one that you want to go to, and then of course you have to be at that certain room at that time. And the ones that we went to, I'm also going to be putting a link down in the description with the titles and the links, that way you can go and listen to all this yourself, because everything was recorded and it's put on the CrossCon website. So you have all the resources right there at your fingertips. I'm just gonna make it a little easier for you to get to them. The breakout sessions that we went to is Character of a Missionary, The Gift of Self-Forgetfulness, How Do I Know God's Will for My Life, A Path to Deeper Fellowship with God, Why Should a Christian Exercise, and Sharing the Gospel Anywhere at Any Time. And my favorite one of these was Sharing the Gospel Anywhere at Any Time, and that was a breakout session by well-known author and speaker David Platt. If you have never read his book Radical, I would highly recommend doing that. He's one of my favorite authors. Okay, my phone reached max capacity, so it cut me off there. I had to go and delete some things. So, as I was saying, David Platt, he's one of my favorite speakers, and I listen to him quite frequently here at home. And so just to be able to listen to him speak in person was a treat. It was a privilege, honestly. He gave the last main talk. He had 2 breakout sessions, and my husband went to both of them. He did the How Do I Know God's Will for My Life, just pointing out that, God has a will for everybody. It's the same, it's the Great Commission, go and make disciples of all the nations and stuff like that. And he said, instead of asking God, what is your will for my life? He said, instead you should be asking, how do I walk in your will better? He just had a lot of really great points to bring out, as he always does. he's just a very wise man. So, sharing the gospel anywhere. The reason why that was my favorite breakout, I'm going to adjust this camera just a little bit. The reason why that is my favorite breakout session is because he gave you like 6 very easily implemented ideas on how to just share the gospel in everyday life. My favorite thing was his method called weaving. And it is how, instead of saying that sunset is beautiful, it's, wow, look at what God created. And it's just simply taking God into your everyday conversation with people, of just, instead of being like, oh yeah, that's just the way things are, to point them to God and be like, no, this is God. He made that sunset. Oh, that flower, God formed that flower. Just stuff like that, just weaving God into your everyday conversation. And that's one of the ways that you can share the gospel. You can share Jesus. It was just a very helpful breakout session, because sometimes, I just struggle with knowing how to share the gospel. I don't feel like I'm very well equipped, and so I walked away feeling a little more equipped. I walked away in general from the whole conference feeling a little bit more equipped. But yeah, that's kind of what you can expect. That was my favorite breakout session. My favorite moment of CrossCon would have been the very last main talk. It was the very end of it. It wasn't even the main talk itself. It was just the experience at the very end of CrossCon, where David Platt was the main speaker, and he had this image up on the screen. And he just showed different parts in the entire world where the gospel is, I can't explain it near as well as he can. He's been doing it so much more than I have. I have to remind myself of that. Where the gospel is plentiful, it's being fruitful. There are other parts where the gospel's there, but they're more cold. And then there's other parts that he showed, which is in other world countries, where the gospel, it's needed. And there's people that are needed to go and share the gospel. And so at the very end, he asked everybody, once again, there was like 12,000 people there. He asked all of them that had sensed God's calling to go to those third world countries to share his gospel, to stand up. Just looking around the room and seeing all these individuals stand up, knowing that they are going to be going and sharing the gospel in these other countries, risking their lives, knowing what they're walking into, because the people at CrossCon, the speakers, never once minced that, hey, you can go there and you might never come back. You might lose your life for this mission. And so just seeing all of them stand up, knowing what they are possibly facing, it was indescribable. And then he asked all the ones that had stayed sitting, all the ones that would be staying stateside or just staying home, he asked all of us to stand up, gather around the individuals who would be going, and to just pray over them. And then he gave all of us a moment, and then he prayed as a whole, and then he flip-flopped it, where he had the ones who had stood up to go to the third world countries pray for the ones that would be staying home. And then once again he prayed as a whole over all of us. And then one of the most powerful moments that I think I've ever experienced, he had all of us as a body pray for the nations and for those who hadn't yet received the gospel. And my husband and I, for the first time the entire conference, we had gotten front row seats just because I wanted to experience at least once, because they say you can hear so much better up front than you can in the back. Just the people behind you, you can hear the people behind you so much better. And it was so true, just hearing. And when he asked us to pray, it was like whispering. It was talking out loud, not in tongues. It was very audible what people were saying, but to just stand there in front of thousands of people and to just hear their whispered prayers behind you, all around you, and just hear the murmur of the voices all throughout the room, knowing that they were praying for the lost and for the unsaved, was just, once again, it was undescribable, and it was so beautiful. But that was my favorite memory there. And then once again, David Platt just prayed as a whole, and then that was the end of CrossCon, and then we all went home, and yeah, so that's a wrap on that. There's so much more, and once again, I will link everything down in the description, and if you were able to go, I highly recommend going, and go sooner rather than later. So thanks for watching this video, and y'all have a great next couple of weeks.